We were right. Security Council defends naming Mount Salem as a zone of special operations while admitting to an error in the data behind the decision. Good evening and thanks for joining us for Primetime News on air and online at onespotmedia.com. I am Archibald Gordon.
And I'm Doreen Samuels. Also this evening, confused. Mount Salem residents react to operational changes in their community.
Murder, mayhem. Clarendon bleeds as 3 more are killed in the parish.
Power down. A JPS application for rate increase ends with consumers getting lower prices.
And in business news, Scotia Group to get a new boss.
There's also sports commentary and weather in this newscast. But before the break, the feedback question.
Do you believe the government should end the zone of special operations in Mount Salem St. James, given that the data used to declare it were wrong?
Share comments online, facebook.com/Television Jamaica, and tweet us at Television Jam.
Stay with us. Primetime News returns right after this break. Welcome back to Primetime News. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com.
A reminder as well that you can download our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1 followed by the word Spot and Media.
The National Security Council is conceding that there was an error in the data used to make the case for Mount Salem to be declared a zone of special operations, but saying the decision was the right one.
In a statement today, the council said there was an error, but did not give the correct figures of murders and shootings which have taken place in the community.
The council said the correct figures would be provided in 48 hours, but in the absence of that information, it's telling Jamaicans the decision was sound anyway. TVJ's Vashon Brown has more.
Questions in the past 24 hours about the accuracy of information which led to the declaration of Mount Salem as the zone of special operations. This was Deputy Commissioner of Police Clifford Blake at a press conference at Jamaica House last week.
In 2014, there were 46 murders recorded in Mount Salem and its environs. In 2015, this rose to 70 murders. In 2016, the figure was 85 murders. So far this year, 54 murders have been recorded.
On Tuesday, the National Security Council, led by the Prime Minister, issued a statement saying there was an error made in the reporting of the number of murders committed in the community in 2017. The Council added that the nature of the error would not have affected the decision of the National Security Council, as it was limited to only one of the factors used to determine the zone. But the JCF will not be releasing the real murder figures for Mount Salem for 2017 until the next 48 hours. This, according to the statement, will give the JCF time to review their systems of data collection and collation to ensure that there are no systemic challenges. The JCF will then update the public on the crime statistics affecting the communities and the measures they will take to improve their reporting protocols. Former Member of Parliament and publisher at the Western Mirror, Lloyd B. Smith, was among those skeptical of the figures announced last week.
The newspaper that I operate, we have always done a count of all the murders in the parish. We follow that very carefully. And from our own, if you pardon the expression, head count, there was no way, empirically or otherwise, that it could be said that 54 persons were killed in Mount Salem.
Even with this development, the council argued that it stands by its decision to declare Mount Salem as the first zone of special operations. The NSC said it is satisfied that the decision to declare Mount Salem as a zone of special operations was justified based on the relevant legal criteria, intelligence, as well as strategic and operational considerations of the Joint Command. Meanwhile, the council said it assessed the implementation to date of the first zone. It said generally the operations have met the objectives so far. Vashon Brown, TVJ News.
In the meantime, the People's National Party, PNP, is calling for Prime Minister Andrew Holness to clarify the crime statistics and all issues surrounding the declaration of special zone of operations in Mount Salem St. James. In a statement today, opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips said the country needs answers. He said the area designated has not been exceptionally violent based on police statistics. Dr. Phillips said the Prime Minister must disclose whether Mount Salem was selected based on a recommendation or whether he made the determination on his own.
Meanwhile, the communication arm of the Zone of Special Operations has provided an explanation for why some areas that were previously barricaded in Mount Salem were cleared last night. There are also concerns about the treatment of persons without identification and the number of illegal weapons seized so far. TVJ's Giovanni Dennis has more.
Monday night, sometime after 7, barricades in many areas previously guarded were gone and some areas unmanned. The reason given, the curfew order expired today and we are now transitioning to cordons. But what exactly does that mean?
As we move from the curfew, we're now moving to a system where the security forces will be able to cordon off smaller areas within the zone of special operations in order to allow the police and the soldiers to conduct their operations, whether it be searches, VCP, etc.
He confirmed that the security forces are no longer limiting movement in some areas which were previously guarded.
It means that the restrictions on movement has been lifted. However, if there is an operation within a certain section of the zone that the security forces want to control the movement in order to carry out a search, then you will see cordons in place. But for all intents and purposes, the restrictions on general movement into the zone of special operations have been eased.
Major Jarrett addressed concerns by some residents about treatment they receive if they don't have ID.
Perhaps the level of complications that have, arose as a result of the issues with the IDs, perhaps that is something that we had not accounted for, because to be honest, that really is the one single complaint that we consistently get coming out of the zone of special operations.
He says systems have been adjusted to make it easier for persons without IDs, but insisted that it highlights a bigger national issue. In the meantime, up to late Monday night, the zones had yielded over a dozen knives, but Major Jarrett maintains that was expected.
I think for most persons, they expected to wake up in the morning and to hear that, police and soldiers are trading gunshots with criminals. That was never the intention of the zones of special operations. We knew, we anticipated, and to some extent, we wanted these criminals to displace from the communities. When they're on the move, it's much easier for us to track their movements. It's much easier for us to figure out where they're likely to be holed up.
He insists that illegal weapons are still in Mount Salem and they will find them.
We know that the guns are there, and we know that not all of the guns would have been able to move out in a reasonable time. So we do anticipate that some are left behind, and we will be bringing in the necessary resources to search for these guns. I know that the Caribbean Search Center is a major part of that search operation. I know that we're bringing weapon-sniffing dogs into the areas as well. We intend to go through and comb the area with a fine-tooth comb.
He says with the Cash for Guns incentive and other strategies, they expect positive outcomes in the near future. Giovanni Dennis, TVJ News.
And the change in operational tactics has left some residents ticked off. TVJ's Herman Green has been tracking the story from Mount Salem and is live in St. James. Herman?
That's right, Doreen. For at least 4 hours last night, none of the checkpoints, including this one behind me at Campbell's Lane, were operational. Persons were allowed to walk in freely, not being searched, not being checked for IDs. However, this morning, they woke up once again to rigorous searches, and that confused everybody.
I was really thinking that it was up today, it's going to be up today, but it's still in search, then the barricade still come back, and I'm still searching people.
This senior citizen in Mount Salem is just one of many who were confused Monday night when the checkpoints into their community were suddenly dismantled. Despite an explanation from the Zoso Communications Unit that a cordon operation has now been started instead of the curfew, some residents see it as just confusion.
Them say is a cordon. When you check it out, a curfew, same way. Because they might check your ID and them want your name and they want to know where you're going.
Maybe then I give you a break. It's a break then I give. Because this morning I go back out there, I have to show them my ID again.
Meanwhile, some residents are still upset about the murder figures used to declare their community a zone.
I don't have a problem, let's do them work, but only one thing, them figures when they get about 50 odd murder in Salem, that's wrong. I swear.
Western Mirror editor and former PMP representative Lloyd B. Smith believes these issues are coming up now because the plan was one-sided and political.
Anything that comes out of a political crucible, which is what has happened here, with Mr. Holness taking full responsibility and being the sole person to make the decision, it appears, as to where Zoso goes, is going to be fraught with the possibility of political manipulation.
Meanwhile, the councillor for the Mount Salem division, Carrie Thomas, says he is now looking for the social intervention part of Zoso.
There are roads that are needed. There are sanitary sewer systems that are needed to put in. There are proper water supply systems that are needed. There are more street lightings that are needed in this community, and we can use that opportunity with street lighting and the new system to use cameras, closed circuit cameras in these areas. There are places that don't have road but rather pathways, so we can start turn some of these pathways into better areas.
Despite the issues, the residents still say they prefer having the soldiers present.
Me love them. I want them post one house right out there, so build one house, give them, and make them live and see them, because we feel safe when the soldier and the police are. When a nice way they run and they shift, when the gunshot them, they fire. Me have to be a metallic teeth for hours. You understand? So what's going on now with the police and the soldier and the area, that is good for me.
If they even there here for a longer period, we can still adjust with them, but the only one thing we all know, if we can keep 2 birthday party, because we know this lane is a party lane. If we can keep 2 birthday party and have fun, we even invite them at the party if we can keep the party safe too.
The residents say they will continue to cooperate with the security forces for the searches and for viewing of identification. We'll continue to speak with the residents in the community as well as the security forces if we can, to get any information we can share with you. Right now it's back to you, Archie, in studio.
Thank you, Herman. Our top story this evening. We were right. Security Council defends naming Mount Salem as a zone of special operations while admitting to an error in the data behind the decision. Still ahead, power down. JPS application for rate increase ends with consumers getting lower prices. And in business news, the Scotia Group is to get a new boss. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Continuing the news. As the murder rate continues to spiral out of control, 3 persons were killed during 2 separate attacks by gunmen in Clarendon. TVJ's Anthony Lugg has the details.
The house in Huntspen, Clarendon, where unemployed 22-year-old Roshane Simpson of Shelter Rock in Spanish Town and 22-year-old construction worker Clayton Edith of Huntspen were killed on Monday. It's reported that shortly after 10 Monday night, the 2 were in a house when gunmen entered and opened fire, shooting both men in the head. They were taken to the Maypen Hospital where they were pronounced dead. Preliminary investigation suggests that Simpson, who's believed to be affiliated with a reputed gang leader in Spanish Town, was the target. He's believed to have fled the Spanish Town area recently after being shot in the leg. His mother, who did not wish to appear on camera, gave this theory to why her son might have been killed.
The thing is a gang friend. And one gang to another gang. When they call them again, you have one pan in the other side and one pan in the other side, the 2 big. And them and the thing, them are the thing gang. So, Samson versus Shelter. So, him have a link, look like somebody from this have a link too.
At another scene in 19 miles in the parish, the police are keeping a close eye on the area as 36-year-old barber Joseph Henry was killed. It's reported that after 7 Monday evening, he was sitting at this bar in the Twin Palm community when a masked gunman approached him from behind and opened fire. The man then escaped on foot. He was pronounced dead at hospital. Anthony Lugg, TVJ News.
It's not the smooth start residents and school administrators would want for their new school term in crime-plagued communities in Clarendon, but they're pulling out all the stops to ensure the safety of students, including a 6 p.m. curfew for residents of Farm. TVJ's Krista Campbell was in Clarendon for the start of school.
The typical scene of parents taking their children to school at the start of the new term. What's not typical is the presence of police. But at Effortville Primary School in Farm, Clarendon, it's welcome relief, particularly for students who have been suffering during recent violent incidents in the community.
Please don't send the children to shop in the evenings, especially when it is dark. 6 o'clock, the students should be at home.
2 social workers from the Peace Management Initiative are helping to provide additional counseling to schools in the affected areas and say children have been badly impacted by the violence.
They are telling us that when the shots are firing, they have to run under the bed, they have to run behind the fridge, under the everywhere. Anywhere they can hide, they have to hide.